It's quite a lonely world that we're living in. Oh baby, you are something special, I'm sure. Everything makes total sense when you're next to me. Times another drink and I'll go anywhere. The way you smell, like a flash in the universe. You are illuminating. I don't really care about the people in the bar. Like I don't really mind all the who goes doing stage dives. I don't care at all, baby. You got my attention, so you would say yes. I don't see the logic of things. It's quite a lonely world that we're living in. Oh baby, you are something special, I'm sure. Everything makes total sense when you're next to me. Told you I could never let you go. I'm not so sure you believe me, but if I mean to show you, I will never let you go. No, 'cause you don't see the logic of things. It's quite a lonely world that we're living in. Oh baby, you are something special, I'm sure. Everything makes total sense when you're next to me.
I'm focused. I've been watching for the omens. I've been listening to everything you said. It's been running through my head, locked and loaded. I got the feeling that you know it. Yeah, I've only just begun. I won't stop until it's done, till you're broken. So welcome to the fire. I'm the one with the lighter. Feel it burning through your veins as we're walking through the flames, getting higher. So welcome to the fire. Welcome to the fire. Feel it burning through your veins as we're walking through the flames, getting higher. So welcome to the fire. I've been waiting for this moment, the final battle of the chosen. See, I'm never gonna quit. Got my legacy set in motion. So welcome to the fire. I'm the one with the lighter. Feel it burning through your veins as we're walking through the flames, getting higher. So welcome to the fire. to the fire. 'Cause the bigger they are, the harder they fall. You build your fortress and I'll climb your walls. You got your armor, but I see your flaws. So welcome to the fire. I'm the one with the lighter. Feel it burning through your veins as we're walking through the flames, getting higher. So welcome to the fire. Welcome to the fire. Feel it burning through your veins as we're walking through the flames, getting higher. Bigger they are, the harder they fall.
Face to face, the back of your car, and you swore we never go this far. Hit me up 6 months later, asking me for another favor. And you know I'd never say no, asking me just to tell me I should go. Fast forward, now we're together. In the end, feeling strange like the weather. And I don't wanna know what you're gonna say now, what you're gonna say now. These feelings never show unless you're burning me down, unless you're burning me down. So tell me, will we be fine and stay up on cloud nine, pretending we're alright? Don't let go, hold me close and keep me by your side as we lay on your clothes and drift into the night. Please don't leave, turn around and tell me it's alright. As I stood there in your sweater, you said it's only getting better. Tell me I should go. It's only getting better. Tell me it's alright. As I stood there in your sweater, you said it's only getting better. What is it? What do you desire? Left it all where the heart's on fire. Let me in, I wanna see you try. Open up, boy, and never tell me why. We were gone, but we had each other. Summer love, so we lost one another. Swore to me that you'd always stay. Now you're gone, you went another way. And I don't wanna know what you're gonna say now, what you're gonna say now. These feelings never show unless you're burning me down, unless you're burning me down. So tell me, will we be fine and stay up on cloud nine, pretending we're alright? Don't let go, hold me close and keep me by your side as we lay on your clothes and drift into the night. Please don't leave, turn around and tell me it's alright. As I stood there in your sweater, you said it's only getting better. Tell me I should go. It's only getting better. Tell me it's alright. As I stood there in your sweater, you said it's only getting better.
Yo, what's up, everyone? Ooh, happy Saturday. Oh, how's it going? How's it going? Patrick, you good?
I'm good.
We're going to change that.
What about you?
We're going to change that. Marco, welcome. Good to have you again, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I think
happy
your
to be here.
Yeah, your fan club is in the chat, so they are ready for you. It is going to be great. So welcome everyone to Guy in a Cube. Real quick, if you are new to Guy in a Cube, either the live stream or just Guy in a Cube in general, put hashtag new in the chat. We love seeing all the new folks. It's always amazing to see where everyone is. We saw I saw some folks from all over, man. South Africa, Kuwait,
Yeah.
all over Europe, so all over the US, Australia. A bunch of folks from Australia. That always amazes me. It's so late there right now.
There's a lot of new people.
Oh, look at all these new. Oh,
Ancient.
Lane. We got Adam, Damien, Akbar,
Many people.
Akil. Akil, ready? Are you new? I thought I've seen you here before. All right, Ronaldo. Nice, nice. Where's I didn't see Thomas's. Oh, there he is. I will never be a DAX expert. Oh, I was waiting for his like not new. Wow, look at all these new folks. Holy cow.
Oh, Moscow.
Arjun.
Moscow. Wow.
Wow. Wow. That is, yeah, from Moscow. Oh, whew. Kevin Arnold, even older. There we go. Ben is in the house. Couple Bens in the house. Emily New, North Carolina. Only got to see like 1 minute of the last session. Oh, well, you're in early, so that's awesome. All right, so here we go. Let's first off, let me thank all of the members of GuineCube. Thank you so much for helping support what we do here. It is very much appreciated and goes a long way. So we've got some changes coming for the end of September that definitely is a result of the support that the members have given. So we are very excited for that. So stay tuned for our videos at the end of the month to see what that is all about. And then I did see Sandeep joined up as a member right as we were in the countdown. So appreciate that as well. Also, so we are doing Q&A. So remember to put Q: in front of your questions. Chatmaster C is standing by to get those queued up for you. And please don't spam your questions. You will get put in a timeout. Moderators in the chat, I see a couple. I see Matthew and Alex is there. I think Chris Wagner's there as well. You have that power as well to put someone in timeout if you see someone spamming. I have a 3 strikes rule, so feel free. Feel free. Alrighty. So first half of this is going to be open chat at the top of the hour for my end. If you're in India, it's going to be the bottom of the hour. We will cut over to member only chat where you can still watch, but only the members will be able to participate in the chat. Super chats always get priority. So, and then for you, the members out there, we're going to try and save your questions till that end. We've got a couple queued up that were sent in beforehand, so we're excited about that as well. All right. Anything else? Marco, also just... I need to get better at this. This is something I'm not good at, so I have to remind myself. So if you're not familiar with Marco, I'm sure there are some folks in the chat that are not. Marco and his business partner Alberto, they run the website SQLBI.com. They are DAX masters and data modeling masters. They also have a new book that came out, DAX Patterns version 2. So you can go check that out. It is in stores now for your reading pleasure. Also, if you can go to DAXpatterns.com, they've got a bunch of stuff there as well. So you can go check that out. And some videos too, Marco. You guys cranked out a bunch of videos for each one as well.
Yes, thank you, Adam. We have the DAX Patterns is the result of 1 year of work. We created many new patterns and we updated the old ones using the latest advances in DAX. They are created for Power BI, but we also had a version for Excel, and it is completely free on the web. And if you want to see some more videos about insights and more details, you can also get the videos. The videos are for sale because we had to fund the investment we made. But everything is also for free on the website.
Yep, awesome. It's good stuff too. It's very good stuff. Highly recommend it. We lost your audio, Marco.
Oh.
Don't know what happened there.
Nope.
Refresh the browser, Marco. Refresh the browser.
Okay.
Something happened there.
I don't know.
That's bizarre. Yeah, his video got a little...
Can you hear me, Adam?
Yep. Wave
Is it
to me,
better
Marco.
now?
Yes, it's back. Okay, good. All right. We are back. So yeah, whenever in doubt, Marco, just refresh the browser. Fixes everything.
Okay.
And then just real quick in the chat, put hashtag DAX Patterns if you own a copy of the book. I'm curious about that. That would be interesting to see. With the questions, also, I'm going to prioritize DAX and data modeling. We will, if we don't have any of those lingering around, we'll get other questions in there. But I want to highlight DAX and data modeling as part of that. Wow, look at all those DAX patterns in the chat. Look at that. Oh, Emily's a future owner, so she's going to go get one. Future Analytics asks, is it available in Amazon? I believe it is.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
All right.
It is.
Awesome. Yeah. I don't know, Marco, your audio got out of sync again.
Okay, so let me just, I tried to check the connection.
All right.
Give me 1 sec.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. I think it might be everyone also. I don't think it's just Marco. I think it's on my end too.
No, it's not just Marco.
Oh, bother. Oh, bother.
It's not just Marco.
All right. Let me see real quick. This is
No.
always,
The IP address is
always
correct.
amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So try to stop.
All right. We hear it. We're going to power through it.
I mean,
We're going to
but-
power through it. Do what? What,
But I
Patrick?
can hear him. It's just a little delayed. But
Yeah.
I can hear it. It's
Yeah.
just a little
All
delayed.
right. Let's
Okay.
go. Let's go. All right. Let's see. All right. First
The
one.
audio is in sync now. Sorry.
Yeah,
Is it
it's
sync now?
it's not just you. It's it looks okay. It looks okay. Let's go with
Okay.
it. We're gonna go with it.
It's good.
All right, Alan
Let's
Jones.
rock on. Let's rock.
Alan Jones. Got a question here. Now I'm gonna remember to do this.
I know star schema is better, but if my data model lends itself to a snowflake schema with things off the dimension table, how bad is that? What are the best practices for a snowflake model?
I love Patrick's
Okay.
reaction to that. Every time
So
he hates
thanks
that.
for the wonderful question, wonderful voice. Thank you very much. So I think that the snowflake works in Power BI. There are two problems that you have to be careful about. One is performance. Performance could be bad. I mean, could be worse, but it works if the model is not too big, especially if the first relationship to the table is not too large, meaning is not more than 100 to 100,000 unique values, it is still fine. The second problem is about calculations. When you have a snowflake schema, depending on the DAX code you write, you might have some issue in the way you express the calculation, especially the way you manipulate the filter, the way you obtain the context transition when you have other many related tables involved. So it depends. It could be confusing, especially when you have complex calculations. As long as your calculation is simple, again, not a problem. In every case, try to avoid bidirectional relationships, bidirectional filters, because that would hurt not only the performance, but also the correctness of many calculations.
Nice. Nice. All right. Good
That's a
question.
good explanation. Wow.
Yeah.
That was a good
As always. As always. Did you expect anything less?
So I gotta ask. I saw this come through the chat. I just have to ask, Marco, what are you drinking?
Oh.
Iced tea. Iced tea. Not,
Well, while we were in the countdown, I saw him pull out a bottle, and I was like, "That looks interesting. It's an interesting color as well."
no, it's iced tea. Yes, I cannot do advertising, but yeah. It's a commercial iced tea. It's not handmade.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. All right, let's see here. Trying to look for the questions are actually really light this time, so feel free to get your questions in here. There's not a lot in the queue. All right, this is a good one for you, for Marco. All right, hang on.
Almost forgot. How do you get the data in local language for a user? Example, I have labels coming from the database, lang ID 1, English, lang ID 2, French.
Patrick, he's holding it in. What are your thoughts,
So,
Marco? I get this question a lot, by the way.
I know. So the thing is that in 2005, we had a very good solution for this problem that is in analysis services multidimensional. So that kind of software works very well for this type of problems. For a number of reasons, Tabular doesn't have a good support for translating the content of a database. So there is a support in Tabular that in part is already available in Power BI in order to translate the name of the table, the name of the columns and the measures, so the metadata of your model. But if I have the product name available in 5 different languages, what I can do today is, actually I had two options. One is I created 5 columns, one for each language, and depending on the report, I use one column or another, which means that in a tool like Power BI, you end up having one version of the report for every language. It's bad, I know, but it just works. And if you have only 2 or 3 languages to manage, it could be good enough. While the other solution is based on a data modeling solution. So you basically create a table that has the translations of the product. So imagine that you have a table that has product ID, language, and description with a translated version. And then you build the report so that when you filter by one language, you get the description in that language. Problem with this approach is it's hard to use the translated version of the product name as a filter, because when you switch the language, you lose the filter that you applied, because the string is no longer the same. The alternative is to only filter by product code and never filter by product name. At that point, it works better, but you still have to pay a lot of time in order to design the model and in order to explain to the user designing the reports how to use the model, because you will not get a simple column product name in the product table. You have to introduce new tables, and this confuses the layout of the data model, in my opinion.
Yeah, my big sad point is there's no way to like automatically detect like the language of the end user. That would make it easier. Oh well.
Yeah.
That's usually the question I get is like, how do you automatically detect that based on the user that's viewing it?
Well, but if you are in a company and you know the user, you could create a table that you import in the model with the username and the language, and you can get the language from Active Directory.
User
again,
principal
it's
name
a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. Yeah.
I agree. All right. Wow. The questions rolled in. So Chatmaster C and Matthew were good at saying, please put the Q colon, and then all of a sudden the flood of questions came in. So just to put that in perspective, I only had like 5 before, and now I've got like 40. So thank you for that.
And they're still coming in.
They're still coming in. That's great. It's great. I love it. Yeah. All right. So our friend Daniel, Marco, I think he's trolling you a little bit. What is your favorite tabular? Oh,
what is your favorite tabular modeling tool?
That's a troll right there. He's trolling you.
I have an answer that will tease everyone. Tabular Editor version 3.
Oh,
you don't have it.
Oh, that's a tease. Ooh.
Yeah, I know.
All right.
Sooner or later,
Three. So 3.
Yeah, now you have the version 2, and the version 2 is what everybody has, because I'm able to see what happens in the future. I also live in the future sometime during the day, and I already play with this version, which is wonderful.
Is it going to have...
Which is amazing.
So...
Is it going to have... So I'm sorry, I'm preempting all the questions, and I'm going to ask my own. Is it going to have Vertipack Analyzer and items, like the modeling items, tied into it instead of just the BIM file?
Don't tell him. Don't tell him, Marco. Don't tell him.
What do you mean?
So like if I'm looking at Best Practice Analyzer and Tabular Editor, I can't, for example, say, hey, is this column like 50% of my model size? And like trigger like BPA rules based on that with inside a Tabular Editor, because I don't have it.
That's a good suggestion. No, we don't have this feature yet, but maybe sometime in the future.
I've known Daniel and I are on email threads about this already, so he's already aware of it.
I have a question. Is it going to have IntelliSense? Is it going to have IntelliSense?
Not only that, listen to my words, it will be the best experience for editing DAX. Period. Best experience editing DAX. Period.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Okay. There you go. You heard it here first.
IntelliSense on steroids.
Heard it here first. All right. So Matthew,
heard it here
Matthew, I
first.
saw your comment about Laura and Christian have awesome questions. I'm going to hold those till the other half. So
Yes.
I agree, though. I agree. Okay. So I'm trying to find. All right. Ben's got one here. Oops.
I almost forget every time. Is there a way to combine nest is in scope and is filtered? I have a use case where I want to display values by hierarchy level 1, but if a user wants to slice on, say, level 3, I don't know.
Every time, Patrick.
So isinscope already works in terms of discovering what you are grouping in a pivot table or in a matrix, right? And while it's filtered, doesn't know where the filter comes from. So basically, you can use isinscope to determine at which level you're navigating through the hierarchy in a matrix or in a chart. And you can use isFiltered in order to know whether you are using any kind of filter. Of course, the problem is that when you reach level 3 in the hierarchy, you cannot be aware of what is coming from isinscope and what is coming from isFilter. So the real issue is that at level 1 and level 2 it works. At level 3 you cannot discriminate between the two because you have both filters active at that point. So and isFilter doesn't tell you where it is coming from one or the other. So the external filter at that point is gone.
Yep. Cool. All right, there's like a battle going on in the chat right now.
Okay.
Somebody said FFS Adam, cut it out.
Yeah, it was Laura. No.
I have. You can try the other voice, by the way.
Oh, you. All right.
Okay.
All right. There. Shoot, I just had. There was a good question. Okay, sure. Charlie's got one. Charlie's got one.
Can you explain precedence when there are more than one calculation groups?
I know, right, Patrick? That's an amazing question.
I think. I'm just preparing a page. If you can share my screen.
Are you ready?
Matthew said he's out of
Yes,
here.
we have this
Matthew said he's
article
out of here.
in on so calculation groups.
Ooh.
Calculation groups are a feature that allows you to create calculations that can be applied over existing measures. And when in the same model you have 2 or more calculation groups, you can define in which order they are applied to the measures through the precedence of calculation groups. So it's very important when you have 2 or more calculation groups to pay attention to how you define the precedence of the calculation groups. This topic would require 1 hour by itself, so I will just point to the article, which is also the same content we have in the book, the Definitive Guide to DAX, where we explain how the precedence works. And I suggest you to read this article because as many things happens in DAX, what you might expect is not what you get. So you have to always pay attention to what means precedence in the context of calculation groups, because the risk is that you get the opposite result that you could expect. There are a few pitfalls that you have to be aware of. So if you read this article, there are several examples. You can also download one example that explains how to manage this stuff and to get the right result. So I think that this answered the question, how can I control that? If the question was, how can I know what is the precedence of a calculation group? Actually, in DAX, you cannot. So you can examine an existing model by looking at the metadata of the model. But when you write code in DAX, you are actually not even aware that a calculation group is applied. So you cannot control in a measure whether someone is playing with your measure in a calculation group. If this is the meaning of the question.
Awesome. Sorry, the chat is off the hook today. Good explanation, Mark. I actually learned something on that, so that was good. All right. So, Chris,
I
thank
did
you
too.
for the super chat and for the encouragement. It's much appreciated.
Oh, please stop.
Micah, thank you for the super chat.
No. Please. Please stop. Please stop.
Oh, and Mark,
stop.
and Mark, thank you for the super chat.
So now it's a democracy, and there's more super chat for no voice than voice. Please stop.
You know what's the beauty of this, Patrick? I have the button. Okay. All right. Okay. Sorry. Let's go to the next one. Let's see. All right, here's one for Parash. Here we go.
Where can I find good articles which talk about how different DAX functions translate into storage engine queries so that I can work on performance tuning?
That is a good question. I like that question.
Okay, so the question is doesn't have a good answer
Yes, I agree.
because the storage engine queries can be invoked for many different reasons by the DAX engine. So you will never find a translation between one DAX function corresponding to a storage engine query, unless you use, for example, direct query. Direct query is much simpler to translate in a way. For DAX is more complex. It's not about the DAX functions, but it's about the expressions you write within the formula. So for example, if you use SUMX could be translated into a storage engine query or not, depending on the expression you write within the second argument of SUMX. And this is just the first example. I could continue for hours. So the best thing to do is to understand how the engine works, and then spending time looking at how simple expressions are translated into query plans and storage engine queries. And by this learning, you get used to also predict what the formula you're writing could do. But there is an additional complexity, which is depending on where you use your measure, you could get completely different execution plans. For example, if you write a distinct count in your measure, depending on the report where you apply the measure, you could have one or multiple storage engine queries. So it's complex. We have several chapters of the definitive guide to DAX where we explain how this works, but you will not find 2 or 3 pages where we do, oh, this is good, this is bad, because as usual, it depends. It depends on the report, on many, many details. And so unfortunately, it needs some experience. And I think that if you think about SQL, if you know SQL and you know SQL optimizations, you know that as soon as you have a complex query, it's not so simple. It's not so easy. It depends on many, many factors, the same in DAX. The conditions that drive the query plan are different, but the complexity could be the same.
Nice. Is that it? Marco, you there?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Refresh your browser for me real quick.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, technology is not our friend. So just so everyone knows, like, what we have a ritual with what we do on the live stream. We restart everything, even the router, all our machines before we do this, and stuff happens sometimes. So, all right. Let's see here. Where is... okay. Jeff's got a good question here. Okay.
Lost the ability to change column measure format in desktop after creating calc group. It's grayed out. Is that by design or something else?
Uh-oh. Now I lost Marco's audio.
Is this for...
Oh, there we go. All right,
can
you're there,
hear me?
you're there.
Okay,
Ooh,
yes.
Yeah, you had this ponderous look, and I didn't... like, oh,
No, I
please
was
talk.
trying to understand the question. I was looking...
Yes. So I think this is tied to something Micah had actually told me about this a while ago.
Okay. Yes.
Because it's altering it to a variant under the hoods, and it's causing issues on that.
So this happens if you, not because you're using the calculation groups, but because you're using the custom format string of calculation groups. When you do that, the data type of the measure could be changed into something that you no longer control, and this could be an issue. Microsoft is working on something to fix that in the simple cases, but basically you have to wonder whether you really need the custom format strings for calculation groups or not.
Nice.
I think we have to write an article about that, because I understand it's a common issue to many people.
Yeah, it's come up a few times. All right, I'm going to pull a non-DAX data modeling one just because it's interesting to me, and so I'm going to grab it. Here we go.
When will Power BI Premium free trial be out?
So I don't know of any information of that ever coming. So from a public perspective. So if you're working with an account team and that's something you want, talk to your account team and maybe they could do something for you. But from a public perspective, that's not available. So right. Moving along. Where are we at? Oh, we're almost up on the clock. All right. Let's do Shorty. Let's do this one. Oh, also, sorry. There were a couple of super chats. I lost it though. There was another one from Guilherme. It's a draw turn on voice. I think it was turn on voice. So I'm going to take that as a pro voice. So thank you for the super chat though. And Ben, thank you for becoming a member. Much appreciated. All right. Even with the voice, you became a member. Look at that, Patrick. All right. So let's see here. And then Rajesh, thank you for becoming a member. Awesome. All right. Let's grab one to two more. There was one I saw. Yeah, Shorty. Yeah, that's the one we're going with. Here we go.
What is more important to learn, DAX or Query Editor Power Query? And where can I learn it?
That is a great question. So for
Patrick,
DAX,
won't you reply?
yeah, Patrick, do you want to answer? You've been very silent. I don't know why. Hello, Patrick. Can you say something so I know your audio is working?
Something.
Okay. Poor Patrick. Patrick is a broken man. Oh, Paul. That was great. Oh, Patrick's a broken man. All right. So from a DAX perspective, this is a great book to learn DAX. It's awesome. Definitely get it. I think I know one of the authors of that. He happens to be here, so that's awesome. And then for Power Query, there are a lot of great resources out there. So I would check out Chris Webb's blog, and Imke Feldman's got a lot of stuff on Power Query as well. So there's a lot of stuff out there from like the MVPs that you can learn Power Query from as well. Also the Learn, if you're just getting started with stuff also, Microsoft Learn Content has a new learning course for the DA100 certification, and it's kind of like it just goes through and helps you with that as well. I would also add, I would be remiss if I didn't add, we also have a course that you can use to get started with Power BI as well. It does touch on Power Query, it does touch on a little bit of intro to DAX and so on and so forth. So that's another option as well. And then also check out SQL BI's website for DAX. Lots of great DAX articles there as well. So, all right. Anything to add, Patrick? Or whoa, I think Patrick froze up. Patrick froze up. I think he texted me. He lost everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
But at least we have a good picture now.
I look up and Patrick's face is classic. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
That's awesome. Oh.
Yeah.
Lost everything, including his mind. Wow. All right. So, and Guilherme, thank you for becoming a supporter as well. Hopefully we will get Patrick back. This is just This day is not going great for us, so technology wise. All right, so I am gonna cut the chat over to member chat. So remember, folks can still watch the stream. And if you do have a question, super chats always take priority. So let me go over to member only chat. Here we go. We've got a few items already queued up. Hopefully they play right with the way technology is going right now. I don't know. Hey, Patrick's back. All right. So we've got 3 questions queued up. One of them is not a DAX data modeling question. So Marco, don't worry about that one. So let's do the first one and we'll see how this goes.
Yo, Marco, a glutton for punishment you are. You're back again for another stream with Adam and Patrick. Oh, I feel so bad for you. So I got 2 questions. Hopefully the guys allow this. First question is, I am learning so much from you and Alberto. You are on a tear recently, releasing a new version of your book, more articles on SQLBI.com. You are doing awesome work, and everyone in the community is learning from you. Who do you learn from? It's amazing the knowledge that you and Alberto have, and I can't think of anybody who has more knowledge than you two when it comes to DAX. So how do you find inspiration, and how do you find things to learn about, and who teaches you stuff? That was question number 1.
It's a great question.
Yeah, this is a great question. Who teaches us DAX? Nobody. So we have to dig deeper into the product. We spend time, whenever there is a new feature, we spend time studying, investing time in trying all the possible uses of the feature in DAX. We are lucky enough to know some people in the development team, so we can actually ask to some engineer what they were thinking when they designed the feature, for example. And they are very nice to reply us to. And this way we build up our knowledge that then we try to share. And in the past, before working with DAX, I also worked with the MDX analysis services since the first release, which was called OLAP service. But I have also a background in developing programs with C++, C#, Delphi, Pascal, and many other languages. And I also work with relational databases before moving into the business intelligence world. So at the end, I cover many technologies that are behind the DAX engine and other things that could be involved. And this probably helps me when there is a problem. I think like a developer, and I try to debug the code, and I find the problem or what is causing the problem without asking to the engineer sometime because of this background. And that's but we spend a lot of time actually learning stuff by digging.
Yeah, I would say that's the same for Patrick and I as well. And that's always we the biggest thing I could give you is like try it, like what's it do, compare it, try different functions, see what the behavior is. So Patrick, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the only way to know or learn is to get in and do it. That's
I've been that way my whole life.
Yeah.
I've got to do it. Awesome. All right, here's part 2.
Question number 2 is about calculation groups. I've been using calculation groups for a while now, but they've become super popular, and you've been releasing some content about how people can create them in Tabular Editor, which is a great tool. And Tabular Editor makes it so easy, but I'm finding myself with lots and lots of calculation items in my groups, such as my time intelligence calculation group. I've got dozens of different items that all have different time offsets and rolling periods and whatever. So it's super useful because I don't have to create many multitude of additional measures to cover time intelligence, but I'm finding that my end users don't really understand it. When they drag a time intelligence group onto their canvas and it blows up their visual with dozens and dozens of different columns or different series, it's not entirely usable by them. They don't understand why it's doing that, and they really just want to pick items from inside the calculation group. So how do you make it more usable for end user? Should I be limiting my calculation groups to smaller number of items? I don't know. I want your thoughts on how you best utilize calculation groups and how I should do that too.
All right.
Okay, so this is a very good question. And if you can switch it to my computer, Adam, we can show an article we published a few weeks ago, August 1st, where we actually describe this problem, which is a problem that many users have. So the idea is that when you have calculation groups, you can have the calculation group is applied to the measures that you have. So for example, if I create a calculation group for time intelligence and I have different measures in my report, I might not want all the combinations of the calculation groups that I chose and all the measures I have. So let me show you this report here. As you see, I actually have many calculation groups here, but with a filter or a slicer, I actually selected only current year and year over year. So this is already a way. So you have to teach users how to select the calculation groups they have. And actually, this is a good idea. How can you pick only the calculation groups you want before putting them in the report? Because actually, you have to know that you want to filter. So you have to first apply the filter, then bring the calculation group here that has only 2 items selected now. See why and why? Because otherwise, by default, you will see all these calculation groups multiplied by all the measures you have in the report. We have 3 measures. We chose 2 calculation groups. Total, we have 6 columns in this matrix with 6 combinations. What if my requirement in this report is I want to show only sales, cost, and margin for the current year, and I want to show the margin with a difference with the previous year without having these red columns. Okay, so today you cannot in Power BI. But guess what? This feature exists. In which tool this feature exists? In Excel. So this button is an external tool that opens Excel connected to my local Power BI desktop model. I use this feature a lot to test my measures. And if I created the same report in Excel, you see that what I get is the following. So let's say that I have the margin, the sales amount, and the total cost here. And I apply something in the rows. So for example, for each, let me see here, calendar month in the rows. And I have my report. Now I include here the calculation group with the time calculation intelligence here. So as you see, I have all the calculation items here, but I only select these 3. However, I still have my 6 combinations here plus the total I want to remove. So the total is easy to remove. I just have to go to the design of the pivot table, and I have to remove not the headers, the total here. So here, grand total. I remove this total. But the next step is how can I get only the combination I want? There is a feature we have here, which is this feature create set based on column items, which shows me all the combinations I have, and I can get rid of those that I don't like. So I delete this and I delete this. Let me just 1 and 2. Okay, so I want to keep the margin. So I want to delete this one, and I click OK. What happens at this point? You get an MDX statement that I'm going to show you now, because there is a syntax used in MDX to do that. And it's called, technically, is a named set in MDX. And once I have this, here we go. I have my pivot table customized this way. Now, we don't have this feature in Power BI because DAX doesn't have named sets. However, even though we don't have named sets, it is not impossible to think at a user interface feature in Power BI that provides me the same ability to choose combinations of items. And so the article here describes the need for this feature, the use case for this feature, and Mika has a good one that actually fits in these requirements. And here we also created an idea on Power BI ideas that I suggest you to vote, because with 128 votes, we will never get this feature done. So first, vote this feature. Second, if you can influence Microsoft, because you work in a large company, try to tell to Microsoft, guys, we need this feature because maybe we will get this feature done at a certain point.
Awesome.
Wow.
Awesome. All right.
Wow.
Looking, I was not prepared. Marco, I apologize. Let's see if I've got. Nope.
Wow, Marco, that's
Don't.
great.
Can you put a link to that idea in the chat?
Yes, of course.
Maybe. Yeah.
Wait a minute. I have.
Assuming you're allowed
what
to.
What if I show you in Zoom and you copy and paste?
Sure.
Is it possible?
Sure.
It's easier because I closed the window with a live so that I don't use the bandwidth too much. I don't know what is going on.
Don't use the Zoom chat.
No.
Right, hang on 1 second.
Should I use this one?
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, there's no way I'm going to be able to copy that. That's all right.
Okay, give me a second.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. I had it. You sent it in an email to me, and I don't have it offhand. So we'll get it.
Don't
in
worry.
the chat.
I'm gonna send you. in a moment.
Cool. All right. So while you're doing that, let me roll out the third question, which doesn't have to do with data modeling or DAX. So let's go. So DIMS and facts. Sent one. Is there a way we can automatically, by PowerShell script, to copy a report from a workspace to a new workspace and change parameters and data source credentials? Good question. Good question. So the answer there is kind of, yes. So let me switch over to my machine real quick. And so the PowerShell commandlets that you can use are a way that you can do this. So there are a couple of items that are available for you here. First is you can export a Power BI report, which will actually give you the PBIX. This is assuming that Power BI desktop file is exportable, right? So if you base it on a live connection or you're doing like incremental refresh or things like that, this will not work. So your mileage may vary depending on what you're trying to do. The other piece of this as well is you can dynamically get like workspace information and like your data set IDs by using these PowerShell commandlets as well. There's also a magical PowerShell command called invoke Power BI REST method. So there is a REST API for updating the parameters of a given data set. However, it's not naturally exposed in the PowerShell module, so you can use this invoke Power BI REST method to call that. And then if we go over to the REST API documentation, there is an update parameters in group where it goes through, and that's the actual API that you can go to do that. For data sources, you can update, you can do some things here. So you can update data sources in a group. This is specific to certain data sets. And there are items here that can allow you to update giving the actual sources that are there. Again, your mileage is going to vary here. Be careful with this. And then also under gateways, there is an item here to update a data source from a gateway perspective. And this actually allows you to update the credentials of a given data source defined in the gateway. This can be useful for cloud sources as well that you're not actually using a gateway for. This is how you would update the credentials for like cloud sources and whatnot, like Azure SQL DB or something of that nature. So yes, there are ways you can stitch this together. Some of it may work, some of it may not, depending on what your data sources are, what your actual data set is doing. So mileage will vary, but there are some options you can do there. So hopefully that helps. All right. Going back. So Matthew had pointed out Laura and Christian's question before, so let's go and roll those. So Christian had one. Is there a tool to get measured dependency tree in a similar way like Power Query Dependency View? I don't know of a way to do that.
Yeah. If the question, okay, so there are different ways to obtain that. First of all, there is a tool created by Razorred, which actually has a feature to do this. I have seen other tools doing that, one from Inc. I don't remember the last name. But if you can switch to my machine, I can show a feature in DAX Studio that actually does something similar.
All right.
Which
you are
is, yeah. So now I'm connecting DAX Studio to my model. And when I go here and I select, for example, a measure like a margin here, you see that I can see this show objects that reference measure, which is a dynamic management view that provides the dependencies within this model. Okay, so you not only see other measures. So in this case, margin is not referenced direct. Okay, actually, it is referenced here by a measure in a calculation item, and it is referenced here in this partition. If I go, for example, to let me see, total cost. Here we go, and I show the same thing. You see that total cost is used in margin, is used in a calculation item metric, and is used also in this partition. Now, this is not exactly what you probably asked. So if you want to see the chain of dependencies of measures, that's another view that does this. But the real problem is that I'm not so convinced that, I mean, it depends on what is the purpose. Oftentimes, I've been asking about this question for dependencies within the reports. And at that point, my problem is, what if there are reports connected to external datasets? You completely lose the dependency trees. So as long as you want to analyze the dependencies within a single dataset, it's fine. But remember, you might have another PBIX file that has local measures that are consuming measures you have in your data model. And in a few months, when you will have the composite models that will allow you to create a model connected to an external model, mixing the two models together and creating measures using measure for other models, it will be a total nightmare. So my suggestion is, if a measure is visible, consider it fixed in the stone. You cannot remove it. If the measure is not visible, you try to tell the people, don't use this measure. It's hidden. If you use this measure, you do this at your own risk. I could remove or change the measure in the future. That is what it makes sense in terms of measure consumption, dependency analysis. If you just want to analyze the dependencies in your own calculation for one model, yes, there are a few tools that provide this to you. Probably DAX Studio doesn't have this feature built in the best way, but there are other tools. If you I'll send you an email, probably I will send you some pointer. I don't have something ready here.
So Daniel commented, he said, just select the measure in Tabular Editor and hit F3.
Thank you, Daniel.
He's got your back.
Thank you.
Oh, that was good. That was good. There was also, there was something I saw there that was...
By the way, Daniel is the author of Tabular Editor.
Yes.
And so we have to say thank you to Daniel every day.
Yes, yes.
Adam.
Yo.
Adam.
Yo.
Go to my laptop.
All right.
Let's show it. Let's show it. Let's show it. Thank you, Daniel. All right. So if you just find a measure up in there,
it's
so
really
here's
small.
my measures, and if you just, I'll zoom in. In. Control 1. So you can see there's my measures right there, right? And then if you just select one, so I'll select one that I know has some dependencies, and you press F3, right? It opens this nice little window, and you click the radio button here. All right, you can see everything that it depends on. It's pretty cool. It's pretty
I forgot.
nice.
I forgot.
That is
Sorry,
nice.
Daniel.
No, it's all right.
I like it a lot, Daniel.
Nice. Nice.
I like it a lot.
That is bananas.
Yeah, this is nice.
Nice.
This is nice.
All right. And thank you for the super chat, Daniel. Okay, now I gotta find Laura's question. This was good as well. All right, Laura's was, what are the top 3 reasons to use DAX Studio? How early should we include it in Power BI training? Ooh, good question.
That's a good.
Top 3. So I think So let's start from the third. The third reason is to help you optimize in DAX code. Today, we don't have any tool that helps you more than DAX Studio when it comes to performance optimization. But I will put it at number 3 because it's not the first thing that you have to do in a training. The first 2 reasons are probably the having an editor that allows you to study DAX, to try DAX code without having to, create a measure and then try the measure. So having something that helps you understanding also how DAX works. You can just copy a query from Power BI and paste it in DAX Studio and run it. For example, in my training, the first demo I do with DAX Studio, I get a query from Power BI in the performance analyzer, copy, paste the query in DAX Studio, run it. Because this way you can understand how Power BI works underneath. You can see how the data is moved to the visual and what the visual receives. Because the visual doesn't have DAX, the visual just receives a table with the data and has to display them. And so I would say that this is the first reason. The second reason is that in general, DAX Studio improves the productivity because sometimes I find that the editor in Power BI is not so good.
You can say it. You can say it. It's okay.
No. It's not so good. Not because the editor by itself would be nice. The problem is that I have 4 monitors in my desktop, 2 monitors here.
Yes.
But the Power BI Desktop is just one window that pretends an editor to be a combo box. I mean, we have Visual Studio Code. We have Notepad++. Notepad is a different window. Why I have to leave in a combo box that hides my report when I'm typing a measure, I cannot see the result of the measure. And this is the first reason why we use now Tabular Editor to write measures. I no longer write measures in Power BI Desktop because I want another window to write the code and I see in the report what is happening when I change the code, for example. And DAX Studio is another editor. So now we have Tabular Editor. Probably Tabular Editor is better for many things, but at the same time, DAX Studio is still more flexible from other points of views. But I would say DAX Studio is more about managing what you are writing. Is not a development tool. Is a tool. Is a tool that is part of the development experience, but is not what I use to create the model. Whereas Tabular Editor is what I use to create the model and write the DAX code for my measures. Whereas I use DAX Studio to test my measures, for example. This is the difference. So I use both. I use both.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'll say this, Marco. When you guys put IntelliSense in Tabular Editor, I'm never writing another DAX expression in Power BI, the desktop. I'm just saying.
Signed by me too, and we just have to, Daniel.
Yeah, Daniel. Come on, Daniel. We know you're there.
Get this recording.
Yes.
Send it to who has to receive this recording,
Yes.
and please include the chat window. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes. I can help facilitate that as well. All right. Good question.
NDA,
All right, Al.
NDA.
Yeah. Alex has got a good one. I haven't had time to look through the book yet. Are there new patterns for calculation groups?
Yes, we have new patterns, and we rewrote all the patterns. So basically, the existing patterns have been rewritten and they are faster. For example, new returning customers, we spent, I would say, 15% of the time for writing the entire book is just for one pattern, which is the new returning customers. Why? Because it is very popular and it was a very big challenge to get good performance. And so, yeah, and we have also many new patterns that we didn't have in the previous version.
Nice. All right, Michael Mays. If I want to calculate a metric for last 6 hours, 24 hours, 7 days, and 30 days, is it better to create measures for each or to use a disconnected table? That's good.
Yeah, I just talked about
the
this
real issue.
The
real issue is the hours, because this raises a problem with your data model. The best practice is to split the time and the date. So if you split the data in a time, what happens is that as soon as you have to analyze the last 6 hours and you want to analyze an event that is across 2 days, you are in big trouble if you use this approach, because the calculation becomes much harder to write and potentially slower. At the same time, if you create a timestamp column, you create a big problem for your data model, for the size and for the performance of any query, especially those that have to group the last 365 days. So if the granularity is just the hour, you could multiply by 24 the granularity of the date table. But if the granularity should be the minute, and you want to get the last 6 hours at the minute level, you are in big trouble, my friend. You have to make a decision. And probably what I will do is I will keep the date table, and I will create just a column with the granularity of the calculation you need, the minute, the hour, whatever it is. And I will use that column in the fact table without a relationship, and I will write a specific measure for that column without relying on calculation items or other stuff, because I would be in big trouble. It's too long to discuss, but the idea is that the real problem is the granularity. Now, if you have a small model, it's not a big issue, but if you multiply, for example, if you go at the minute level, you have a problem, because the column where you apply the filter is too big, and you will see the performance is not good. You will say, why I don't use SQL, for example, and I agree.
Yep. And I know, like, Patrick, you've done a few videos on that as well.
Yep.
Like splitting the date and the time and splitting that out even further. And, yep. Awesome. All right. Susan had a question, and I'm not, we're going to have to make a guess at what she meant, unless, Susan, you want to add some details in the chat. Best practices for DAX Patterns and Tabular Editor. Maybe like best practices of when you implement it, or...
So, okay, so I think I mentioned so there are two things that we don't have today in DAX Patterns. First, we are not using calculation groups for the DAX Patterns. We're already working on it, okay? So, but the problem is that we always need to make sure what we publish doesn't require to be edited in the next 6 months, because we receive too many feedback. So we prefer to spend time making our own test for the performance and for other side effects that you might have. We're working on it, so we will refresh the website. So we will have the same calculation, the same concept implemented through a calculation item, so it is easier to adapt it to an existing model. Second, many times the pattern could be adapted to an existing data model by providing a number of inputs. So if I know what is the table that contains this column, blah, 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 I can just generate the measure on the fly. So why not creating a script for Tabular Editor or some other tool to generate the pattern on the fly? Yes, we already thought about this. We are thinking about how to do that. There are many techniques we can use. The real challenge is that you need to be aware that the data model follows a few rules. And so not all the patterns can be implemented this way, not all the rules can be implemented this way. But for example, for the time intelligence, yes, why not? Okay, there are a few patterns where this is just a question of implementing it. And this is probably the first thing we will do. Like, for example, but the problem is you need a date table that is good for your calculation. So in reality, the problem becomes, can I apply time intelligence to this model? Yes, if I generate the date table, or you tell me in your date table what are the columns that have this content. And so there are a few things that we have to evaluate and then implement. We will do that, but not tomorrow. We have the first thing is having the calculation groups. Then we will think about the templates and some tooling to help people to adapt to the DAX pattern.
Come on, Marco. I think you can do it tomorrow. What else you got going on? It's the weekend. It's the weekend. It's fine.
No. I already have other things.
All right. So
on the weekend.
All right. We are up at time, but there are two questions here I think are really good.
Yeah.
All right. So Heidi's got one. Is one data model in Tabular for everything across business, HR, finance, like giant model? Is that okay or not okay, or it depends? Like Do we split them up? Do we have just one giant model to rule everything?
I think that the answer is no, a single model is not good. And the reason is not technical. The reason is human reason. The same entity, the same measure sometime could have different names and different meanings in different departments of the same company. Even though you start from the same data model, from the same database, you might have different point of views. And so what is designed in a way, or just the presence of certain measures, certain names, certain attributes in the product could be very useful and very important for people in logistics, but people in marketing don't care, or the opposite. This can be applied at any level on any entity. Is not a technical problem. Is not a technical. It's if you want, it's a business problem, or it's an organizational problem. So it's easier to create different models, starting from the same data, of course, that show the data that you want to show to that kind of audience in an easy way. This didn't change because we have Tabular Editor or Power BI or Analysis Services Multidimensional. I can go back in time 30 years. We had exactly the same problems that have been already solved with the dimensional modeling, with the idea of creating separate data marts, separate star schemas for different departments in a company, starting from the same data warehouse. This didn't change. We changed the technologies, but the processes are the same. But of course, if you want to fight this and say, oh, this product solves everything, we no longer need the data warehouse, you're welcome. You will be our customer in a couple of years, don't worry. It's your choice, no problem.
Nice. Awesome.
You're welcome.
All right. Here's the last question. This is from Alex. This is a good question too. Since you're in the future, quick measures in Power BI Desktop was a great idea and hasn't seen any new patterns since its release. I don't know that that's necessarily true. There were a few additions. Where do you see the fusion of DAX patterns and native quick measures?
I tried at the beginning to work with the quick measures, and I quickly dropped my effort because they are not implemented in a way that makes it easy to do what we want. And let me explain in 30 seconds. A quick measure requires some developer in the Power BI team to implement a dialog box to get the parameters for that quick measure. Guys, it doesn't work. It doesn't scale. It doesn't do anything. You cannot go along this path. And more importantly, the quick measure doesn't change the data model, whereas sometimes, or doesn't validate the data model, which is sometimes required to implement a template for a calculation or for a measure. So it's too limiting. But if instead of creating, so I'm very critical about the quick measures because it's. From my point of view, it doesn't work. And sometimes also it suggests some bad practice because of the quick measures that have been implemented, by the way. So, but my problem with the quick measures is the way they have been implemented. I would never have implemented quick measure the way they have implemented the quick measures. And because of that, there are many limitations and many problems that I already said this to Microsoft, don't worry, it's not the first time I said this. So I said, no, this doesn't work, it's not the right thing to do. And now that we have external tools, from my point of view, I'm not interested in investing in that, because at the end of the day, they have to implement this in Microsoft. So you can provide a suggestion, but they have to implement it. So any effort you make, you never know if they will be published or not, or if they will be published as you want. The only quick measure I proposed, they changed it in a way that was less efficient. And when I asked why, we said, oh, because this and that. And we said, okay, but you could have asked me because we could have implemented this in a different way. Now it is broken. So I don't like that feature.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep. So, and Alex added something else. He's like, maybe it's time to revisit and rebuild it. And that's always a challenge, especially from a product perspective, because it's like, okay, do we invest time in that, or do we invest time on the other thing that you're asking for?
Which is the topic of my post today. I wrote a blog post today because during the week, Can I say that, Adam, or we have to? Okay. So during this week, I look at it. I don't remember. I described it in the blog post today. Something that I have seen on Twitter, and on Twitter I said, okay, if you had 1 month of development time, would you implement an existing feature that exists in an external tool, just because this way you have the same feature that you already have in an external tool in Power BI, or would you implement a new feature?
Right.
Now, what happens in a few hours, I received a lot of feedback of many people that said, no, we want the existing feature in Power BI Desktop. Because this is because this way it is supported, it is from Microsoft, it is blah, blah, blah. And I was surprised because I said, wait a minute, everybody wants new feature. So once we have a workaround, who cares? We can move forward. And we're talking about the data modeling feature, not something for the end user, not something like the custom vision. We're talking about something only for the developers. I said, why? This is strange. So I created a survey and asked it to the same people, because the people who follow me are the same, and asked it to the people, what do you think? And the result was 50-50, which is still surprising to me, to be honest, but again, it's different, very different from the number of comments I received. And so someone said, but you are getting the result from the people that follow you. Indeed, I mean, I had a different result before. Now, I'm not saying that this is the final ultimate survey. I'm just saying, look, sometimes the gut feeling is wrong. And I wrote a blog post today saying, most of the times, my gut feeling is wrong. Most of the times, when I think something, I look at the data, I was wrong. Not every single time, but most of the times. And I discovered something new. So because we work with data, we should get rid of our biases and look at the numbers. And if the numbers tell me that, okay, in this case, the numbers tell me that any choice will be wrong for 50% of the people. So I don't want to be a product manager in Microsoft that have to make this choice, because any choice you make is wrong for 50% of the audience.
Well, and I think Will Thompson commented as well. He was just like, to be a PM, it's like, it's always the struggle, right?
And so you have to balance. And the thing is, if you look at the revenues, the final decision is, okay, what is stopping people today to adopt the product? And what is making people angry about the product? These are the two main drivers, because you have a subscription, so you need the people to pay every month or every year. If you think about this, as soon as you have a workaround, the prioritization of a feature immediately drops. It's inevitable. At the same time, when you show people that they can do something with an external tools, there will be someone that is angry because I want to do this in Power BI, but I cannot use this external tool for any reason. But what do? You measure how many of people are asking this feature. You say, okay, we have 10% of the people cannot use this feature. Okay, I'm sorry, but we have 90% of the people that can work without this feature, so we have to prioritize something else. It's the real truth, and you just have to look at the numbers.
Going back to when I was in support, not necessarily on a feature thing, but like if a customer was asking for a fix for a particular item, one of my colleagues had made a comment. He's like, "Hey, think about this: that if someone wants a fix, you're basically asking the product team to cut a check and reprioritize to address that fix instead of working on the other thing. If you have a workaround, then that makes it harder to, as Marco pointed out, if you have that workaround, it makes it harder to say, yeah, we're going to go invest in that item, as opposed to like, why can't you use the workaround? Like, why does that not work? And in some cases, you know, okay. In other cases, it was like, look, the workaround's acceptable, so we'll go with it.
If I can add one thing.
Yep.
There is a problem that many people are not aware of. The same feature built in DAX Studio could be 1 hour. I go to my PC, I write the code, and I deploy. I don't care about testing, languages, validations, legal, and you can have a long list of things.
Yep.
Any feature that Microsoft releases has to be approved by so many people for many different reasons.
Yep.
It's a huge cost. So the thing is, how many people are required to justify certain feature? If a feature is for developers only, maybe that a user interface in English is good enough. Maybe that you don't need the translation. Maybe that you don't need a nice looking user interface that also can satisfy all the, for example, accessibility requirements. Now, I am very, very, very aware of accessibility requirements, and we always pay attention to many details, but there are cases where they are simply good for legal reasons, but they are not effective.
Yeah.
And so if you're Microsoft, you have to comply with them. No, it doesn't matter. If they are not useful to a real person, they have to be compliant.
Yep.
But for an open source tool that is free, who cares?
Yep.
And so this reduces the friction to release new features. This is important. And this is also the reason why I said at a certain point, Microsoft should say, okay, development, open source tool, like they do for other things.
Right.
Why not in Power BI? That's my point of view.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. With that, Marco, any final words? Anything you want to let people know that's going on or what's coming up for you?
We are, I mean, we're spending time now in, we cannot travel. So a big part of our activity until a few months ago was traveling the world, teaching live classes, which now is something we're not able to do. And so we are certainly doing a lot of work remotely, but we're also investing in creating new content for future training and future products. And but actually, I hope to be able to, meet people in conferences and training. I don't know when, maybe in 2021. We hope.
Yes.
We hope.
Yes.
2021. But yes, we are working a lot, and we are trying to use this time the best way, also for the community. And I hope you will see new tools, new features, new content in the next months, so that you will like it. And then in a few months, we will see together in some event around the world. I hope.
Yes, I hope we hope to. I know Patrick and I talk about that a lot. So
yes.
All right, Patrick, any final thoughts?
Yes, please. Nope. This was awesome, Marco.
This was
Thank you
really good.
coming.
Thank you for hanging out and going long and tried to get through as many as we could. So, all right, folks, we will see you next week. Patrick will not be here. He's got some personal stuff he's got to deal with. We are going to have the folks from BI Focal on, so Jason Himmelstein and John White. They will be joining me as co-hosts. So we will see you all next Saturday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and have a great week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.